President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin agreed during a lengthy call Tuesday to an immediate pause in strikes against energy. According to Associated Press, infrastructure in the Ukraine war, but the Russian leader stopped short of backing a broader 30-day pause in fighting that the U.S. administration is pressing for. The White House described it as the first step in a movement to peace that it hopes will include a maritime ceasefire in the Black Sea and eventually a full and lasting end to the fighting. But there was no indication that Putin has backed away from his conditions for a prospective peace deal, which are fiercely opposed by Kiev. And shortly after the call ended, air raid alerts sounded in Kiev, followed by explosions in the city. Local officials urged people to seek shelter. Putin during the call reiterated his demand for an end to foreign military and intelligence assistance to Ukraine, according to the Kremlin. Trump, though, denied that the subject came up during an interview with Fox News on Tuesday. "We didn't talk about aid," Trump said. "We didn't talk about aid at all." Trump on Tuesday again underscored his view that Ukraine is not in a strong negotiating position. He said Russian forces have surrounded Ukrainian troops in Russia's Kursk region, amplifying an assertion made by Russian officials that's been disputed by Zelensky. "They are nicely encircled, and that's not good," said Trump, according to excerpts of an interview on Fox News Channel's Ingram Angle. "And we want to get it over with."
Russia has the advantage, as you know. They have encircled about 2,500 soldiers. They're nicely encircled, and that's not good. And we want to get it over with. Look, we're doing this. There are no Americans involved. There could be if we end up in World War III over this, which is so ridiculous. But, you know, strange things happen. And I think we had a great call. It lasted almost 2 hours. Talked about a lot of things and toward getting it to peace. And we talked about other things also.
Was there non-negotiables mentioned by Putin? It was reported that I think the Kremlin media actually stated that he demanded an immediate cessation of aid to Ukraine in order to get to this multi-step deal.
No, he didn't. We didn't talk about aid. Actually, we didn't talk about aid at all. We talked about a lot of things, but aid was never discussed.
The White House says President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin have agreed on an immediate ceasefire for energy and infrastructure targets in the Russia-Ukraine war. According to Associated Press, the White House described the move Tuesday as the first step in a movement to peace that it hopes will eventually include a maritime ceasefire in the Black Sea and a full and lasting end to the fighting. Ukraine hasn't responded yet. Associated Press reporter Zeke Miller says Trump and Putin held a call for more than an hour on Tuesday, working out a three-step plan. The real test is going to be, does this sort of agreement in principle actually materialize? Do both sides cease attacks on energy and infrastructure sites in their respective countries? That will be the first trust-building exercise, so to speak. Of this, can they actually get what is an agreement in principle into something that takes effect on the ground, Miller said. The engagement is just the latest turn in dramatically shifting U.S.-Russia relations as Trump made quickly ending the conflict a top priority, even at the expense of straining ties with longtime American allies who want Putin to pay a price for the invasion.
President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin wrapped up a more than 90-minute phone call where they agreed to begin to seek a limited ceasefire as the first step towards bringing about the end to Russia's more than 3-year invasion of Ukraine. That first step would include a halt on fighting on both sides, attacking on both sides of energy and infrastructure targets, which on both sides have been suffered severe damage over recent years. And then from there, the U.S. planned to extend to targets in the Black Sea as they try to rebuild economic corridors, and then finally a final complete ceasefire to that war. It is unclear yet just the extent to which the Ukrainian government is on board with that plan. They have proposed versions of that, but the devil will obviously be in the details. the real test is going to be, does this sort of agreement in principle actually materialize? Do both sides cease attacks on energy and infrastructure sites in their respective countries? That will be the first trust-building exercise, so to speak, of this. Can they actually get what is an agreement in principle into something that takes effect on the ground? And then from there, it'll be the beginning of negotiations somewhere in the Middle East over extending that ceasefire to the maritime, and then ultimately back onto the ground. Really the first step, though, is can both sides sort of commit to this? Will there be some sort of hang-up before this limited ceasefire is implemented?
Ukraine is prepared to support any proposals that lead to peace with Russia but must be part of the negotiations, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told reporters on Tuesday after U.S. President Donald Trump held a phone call with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. According to the White House, Trump and Putin agreed during a lengthy call Tuesday to an immediate pause in strikes against energy and infrastructure targets in the Ukraine war, but the Russian leader stopped short of backing a broader 30-day pause in fighting that the U.S. administration is pressing for. According to Associated Press, Zelensky did not talk to Trump after the call and he was not briefed on the details of their conversation, he said. There are two sides in this war, Russia and Ukraine. Trying to negotiate without Ukraine, in my view, will not be productive, Zelensky said via a video press conference. Zelensky appeared frustrated that he was not being included in the details of the negotiations. If President Trump can find time, he is a busy man, if he has time he can phone at any time, we are ready to pick up, he said. There was no indication that Putin has backed away from his previous conditions, fiercely opposed by Kiev, to consider a broader ceasefire. Russia wants Ukraine to renounce any prospect of joining the NATO military alliance, sharply cut its army, and protect Russian language and culture to keep the country in Moscow's orbit, among other concessions. During the call, Putin reiterated his demand for an end to foreign military and intelligence assistance to Ukraine, according to the Kremlin. Shortly after the call ended, air raid alerts sounded in Kiev, followed by explosions in the city. Local officials urged people to seek shelter.
Ми будемо підтримувати будь-які пропозиції, які ведуть до сталого і справедливого миру. Але для цього ми повинні розуміти, про що йдеться, які деталі. І дай Бог, щоб ми знали всі ці деталі, щоб партнери проговорили з нами, тому що в цій війні дві сторони – Росія і Україна. І без України домовлятись, мені здається, безрезультативно. Ми ж підтримуємо всі кроки щодо закінчення війни. Ми і будемо підтримувати, але для того, щоб щось підтримувати, треба розуміти, що конкретно. Буде час у президента Трампа, він зайнята людина, буде час, він набере будь-який час, у нього є там телефон, немає питання, ми готові, проговоримо з ним наступні кроки.